at all. Which, by the way, Top Shelf is also going to be reprinting sometime next year in a complete volume, so that'll be cool.
Artists love to see their own work. That's really what they all want. They like seeing stuff. Oh, yeah. I did that.
People ask for it, okay?
Top Shelf. It's
Top Shelf. It's going to be awesome. Yeah. So, yes.
Dinner with your ex.
Short answer, yes. I think.
Is it, this is kind of for Brian. Is it hard for you to bounce around a lot with the Avengers or SpiderMan, and you're working on, I think you're working on a kid's book right now, and then doing something that's obviously more adult themed like Scarlet or Powers? Is that, do you like actually set aside different points, I don't know, like in your mind or your day or week or however you write to move between those projects, or does it just kind of happen for you as you write?
And you know, it's funny because I know some of these books like ship on the same date. Like you'll get an Avengers and a Scarlet, so it will perceive to some people that they were written on the same day. When sometimes they're going to be a year apart, like usually months apart, but sometimes even as much as a year apart in where I was as a human being or when I wrote them. What I do though is, because I do want to feel when I wake up in the morning and if I'm in a Scarlet mood, which is the scary mood, or I'm in a happy Ultimate Spider-Man mood or whatever, that I allow myself not to have to force myself into a Scarlet mood. So I write ahead. I try to stay as ahead as I can on everything, so nothing is due that day. Because I know some writers love to write up against the deadline. I have friends that literally write brilliant stuff 3 pages at a time, feeding the artist like every 3 days, and I go, I could never do that, you know. And meanwhile, you could never tell. I see that the audience can never tell, right? I like to, if I wake up and I'm in Ultimate Spider-Man mood, I want to do it, and I take a shower, and all of a sudden I'm in an Avengers mood, and that hit me. I just want to be able to go with wherever I am, and then I find it's organic, it's emotional, it feels true. Because honesty is my big thing. You got to write honest, and sometimes when you're writing, corporate characters, there's a lot of things standing in your way from being honest. So I want to try to keep as honest as possible. So, and that staying ahead of the game allows me that literally on my Daredevil run, I didn't write that book for 8 months once. Because I was so ahead, the book kept coming out, but I didn't actually write it. And then when I came back to it, it actually felt like I was returning to the book. Meanwhile, there wasn't a monthly break. So I kind of like that, So that's done me well throughout my years in the business, as I say. So, yeah. Would you like a comic book? You get one too. Would you like an out-of-print alias?
Oh, certainly.
You get that. There you go. Have a nice, a little bit of everything.
When you're writing the group stuff, you like the Avengers. It seems like it has everybody that has a solo book in it. Do you feel more pressure doing it because other people are writing the solo books? So do you feel, is there a little bit of pressure, I guess, writing those stories?
Well, 90% of the guys who are writing their solo books are my friends, and the other ones are Parker. So I just...
stresses over those red Hulk bits.
We are all such students of the industry, and we know you go in the comic store, you see issues of back issue, and we've read we know every story.
Right.
We know every horrible thing that happened during the original Crisis on Infinite Earths, and how John Berg ignored it, made his own continuity, while Mark Waid was doing his continuity, and we know that no one won, and everyone got punished. And the good news is we are friends with mostly, if not similar tastes. At least we admire the other person's taste. Like, half the time, sometimes Matt Fraction is in my house twittering, and I have no idea what he's twittering about. Like, and he's standing right there, and I don't know what that was, You've seen it,
I'm afraid to speak in front of him.
Yeah, but the news is that, so we respect each other's work. And that is the juggle for me. The juggle for me is, almost all of them have a solo book, and if we do our job writing Avengers and someone gets a following, then they get a book, all right? So, but that to me, I've just decided it's a excuse for creativity. It's an excuse to blow people's minds with something in there. Yes, that doesn't mean that Luke Cage and Jessica Jones' marriage is getting a lot of face time in my book because it's not been covered anywhere else. But and the one thing that annoys people, sometimes I won't reference Matt's run and I only don't reference it because I'm writing ahead, and I don't know when his book is shipping, but I know what's happening for the next 2 years. This year of Iron Man is probably going to be one of the greatest runs ever. But I feel if I reference it, I might spoil something by accident, and then I ruin it, and I don't want to do that. All right? We had a little trouble with Captain America was coming back to life. He kept showing up in my book because it was supposed to ship by then. Like it was supposed to come out. So, and I hate that. I hate when I like spoil stuff. So I just won't reference it, but won't contradict it. Right? So my Iron Man will all be about him and Steve Rogers yelling at each other for the next 2 years, right? And that's not being covered in Matt's book. So I just try to come up with creative excuses to have them there, and the book's really about the group.
Yeah.
And you do that there. So, what would you like? Do you have a GameCube? Does anybody have a GameCube?
I don't have a GameCube.
Because I got this GameCube on this PlayStation.
I do have a backwards compatible PS3.
There you go. This is the special edition.
All right. Oh,
All right, there you go.
Venom cover.
I'm going to be stuck with these GameCubes forever. Yes, Brandon. A graduate of my class and who just got his first image book through Robert Kirkman's line. Thank you.
I was reading one of Fraction's scripts, and he used a lot of cinematography terms, and I'm curious what everybody's opinion is on that, both from writing and art. And I know.
Can you
Jeff
say
doesn't-
some of the terms you're talking about?
Match shot, wide angle,
The more like directing tricks, right?
point of view,
Yeah.
point of view, stuff like that.
Yeah. Like in a screenplay, you're not allowed to direct. In fact, it's against the rules. And if you write direction, they'll throw it in the garbage. It's wrong. It's actually incorrect. You're supposed to write action and dialogue and nothing else.
I encourage non-artist writers to not do it. Matt worked, doing design work for years or whatever, so he knows what he's talking about. But you occasionally get some people, it's like they'll keep on, this is a medium shot. They didn't have no idea what they're saying. They're just saying medium shot because they heard somebody say it one time or something. I'll do it just because I've drawn comics and I'm trying to save the artist some time. But I always let them know you don't have to use my direction. It's like mainly I'll put in there big or small because I don't want them to waste a whole lot of panel space on something that's not a big moment. Yet I've seen people then, oh no, I just wanted to draw that face really big and do that. But then I'd say I will say here's the big moment. Brian does that a lot in his scripts. He'll talk about, he talks more in terms of emotion, which is interesting to me. And I think the artists react well to it. They go, here's what we want the reader to be feeling at this moment. And I think that gets across what you need to get across without actually holding their hand and drawing the picture for them. So I think that's a good way to go.
Yeah, some artists, a lot of us work full script, right? We all work full script, and there's other ways to write. And the problem is that in screenwriting and television writing, there are rules, and there's a format, and this is how you do that. Even with playwriting, there is rules of how it's supposed to be written for the stage. In comics, there's no rule. There is this mishmash, this bastard mixture of everything that works for that individual writer. And you ever read a Warren Ellis script that's written on a cocktail napkin in a pub somewhere, and it's just as good as an Alan Moore script that looks like something from the Seven Notebooks, Kevin Spacey 7 Notebooks, and none of them are wrong.
And it's editor's preference too. You gotta figure out what the editor wants to read because they're the main one you have to first get everything across to. And I've kind of settled into this very brief describing style where I try to, and this is actually a good rule for screenplays, or so I hear all the time, about just using action verbs, keeping it very sparse, just getting it across because they've got to read a lot of scripts all day, and you're just one of them. And if they hit something and you just spend way too much time describing the scene, they're off down the hall going to the bathroom, and then they're not reading your script anymore. And you've got to get them moving or whatever, and do everything that gets their attention and gives them just enough to paint the picture and keep it moving. And then maybe you can have. I like to actually write a big spiel at the beginning of the script, saying, "Here's what I'd like to achieve with this. We're trying to go for a No Country for Old Men sort of feel, blah 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 blah." And then go into and let's use a lot of blues or something like that. But then I keep all the panel one. Hulk lands on the ground and it cracks. I keep it very sparse. from there.
But boy, I want to see a Man-Thing starring in No Country for Old Men.
Wouldn't that be sweet?
That sounds fantastic.
It can depend a lot on the artist you're working with too. I mean, I'm
Some guys need
working
the
with
guidance.
like 6 or 7 artists right now, and there's scripts I'll write from one of them that I would never think about writing for another. And also a lot of one of the reasons Jeff likes to keep things simple. For one of the reasons I like to do it is because often we're working with artists that actually don't read or speak English. So
Yes.
it's going to go through a translator. So if you start getting into these
Don't use idiomatic expression.
grandiose, descriptions of things like that, that it's not going to reach them. So all you're doing is confusing them even more. So, yeah, the keep it simple is pretty nice. But like, I work with Colleen, and I'll give her like big directions and
Oh
things
yeah.
like that.
Well, we
So-
have sort of a shorthand. We work together a
Yeah,
lot,
so-
so we're
so,
married.
Yeah, it depends a lot. It depends a lot on the artist you're working with.
I've worked with upwards of 8, 9, 10 different writers at Marvel, and no two scripts styles are alike. So
Yeah, what Brian said there really fascinated me when I first got into comic book writing, because I turned in my first script for Marvel, and then I said, "Is that the way you want it? Is that the format you want?" And the answer was, "I don't know. What's it matter?" It's like, well, because we're supposed to write scripts a certain way. Nah, just go ahead and do it. Okay. Nobody has ever.
Just don't change the fonts a lot. I can't stand seeing
Yeah.
script that looks like a ransom.
It drives me nuts.
But yeah,
Just stick to one font.
There's no real correct way to write it.
Well, I tell you that what I've learned is if the script is a pleasure to read for the editor, you will get more work.
Yes.
And even it's a subconscious. Like I've seen guys overwrite just to show how much work they're doing. Look how much work I'm doing, and it's writing, and it's ponderous to read. In fact, something
Yeah.
got sent around to us that was punishing. It was like an epic poem that never ended. And the words didn't even seem to connect in any way. And I said, no, I want to do that. I was going to do it.
No.
But it was they're literally, but it was a lesson because I saw everyone's reaction, their negative reaction. And I go, yeah, see, this guy worked his ass off, and there's no emotion, there's nothing there, there's no style. And if it's a pleasure to read, it will translate down. It will be fun for the editor to work on. It will be fun for the artist to continue to draw. I really have felt like, and when it's working, and you can't fake that. When you've written something, if it's fun for you, it's fun for them. Even the emotional thing, it translates all the way down.
Yeah,
And I've seen some hilarious stuff. Who's the most hilarious writer? Mark Millar writes these. I've seen him do this 100 times. He goes, if this double-page spread of 50,000 robots attacking Captain America is going. This original art is going to go for $10,000. You're going to make $10,000 when this is done. And every single guy will draw 1,000,000 giant robots, because you don't want them to cheap out when you ask for the big army. Like I always ask for 100 ninjas, and I hope for 12. You know what I mean? And every once in a while, someone will give you 100. You go, that guy's good, But he always tells them how much money they're going to make down the road. And so, I was with an artist who I'm pretty sure wasn't going to give me the 100 ninjas. So I did the trick. I go, I got to tell you, man. I saw a Mike Mignola ninja piece go for $18,000. And I got the best piece of art from this guy ever, and I felt ashamed of myself because I knew it was just pure manipulation.
Good use of that tool.
But it worked. Goddamn, it worked. And I can tell you, he wrote like 2 lines of dialogue. 100 ninjas getting Captain America. This is going to make you a fortune. Boom, done.
I felt horrible. I did that to Declan Shalvey on the Thunderbolts Shadowland crossover. Well, just not really a crossover. It's just where they run into Shadowland for a minute. And I kept describing all these scenes with a zillion ninjas. And it goes in my head, I was thinking, they're all black. He's just going to like rough them in and then go back and black. And I forgot that the hand ninjas have all this red junk and horns and stuff. And I felt horrible. I would not have written it that way if I'd been thinking about that. I was just thinking of ninjas. Oh, well.
See,